Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Tess.
Welcome to A Lovely Place.
We're so glad you've joined us as we invite Jesus into the midst of our lives, learning, and laughter.
We hope this podcast can encourage your heart and make you smile today.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend.
Oh, goodness.
Welcome. Happy summertime.
Yes, it is supposed to be very hot here today. So
Yes, this week's supposed to be hot also. I think it's it's summertime.
I find that I am excited by the weather, because I like sitting outside in my yard most of the time.
Yeah.
And the kids like playing outside, but I also find that I'm growing a little bit weary of all of the watering all the things because I think I've overextended myself with how many plants I bought this year.
Okay.
Which seemed like a good idea at the time. And now I'm like, but every night I've got to do a lot of watering. So I'm reconsidering some of my purchases, but I'm not going to kill my plants,
Well, that's nice of you to not kill them. I just didn't buy very many, and
that's
hopefully the sprinkler hits them when it turns on, and that's the extent of that.
Oh, that sounds easy.
Yeah. I was like, if I only plant them here, then they have a chance to survive.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So today, we are continuing our talk on End Emotional Eating by Jennifer Tates. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're on chapter 5, which is called Surfing Urges and Developing Realistic Confidence. When I read that at first, I was very confused as to what we were talking about, but it makes sense now that I've read the chapter.
Yeah. It's like, what? Surfing? What are you talking about?
Right?
How does that work?
So I've enjoyed it, but it sounds like we kind of have mixed feelings about it. So,
Yeah. Well, I think that just proves that people are in different moments in their journey. Oh, man.
That's so true.
Yeah. Because as I was reading the word surfing, I was like, I think that's surfing, right? I don't know what word I was trying to make it, but then I was teasing Tess before we started that I didn't even want to get in the ocean. I don't want to surf anything. So there's where my brain space is, friends, for this episode. But I'm diving in. Apparently, I don't know what. Anyways. But I appreciate it also. But I guess my lens is just tired and feeling like it's chapter 5 in this book. And have I made any progress?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's kind of like, what? So
why isn't this working yet?
Yeah. What's going on here?
Yeah. I love that at least the feeling I get from most of these chapters in this book is that they kind of build on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like, we started with acceptance and mindfulness and things like that. And so it feels like if I actually did all of the exercises that she has, I would be better at practicing those things right now, which I'm slowly incorporating those in. And I think that has to do with self-compassion, being okay that it's not instantaneous.
Yeah.
But this chapter also kind of builds on that as well, which I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoy her perspective on scientifically how our brains work and clinically ways that we can help them along. And just the expertise that she has in those areas. So I found it really interesting to read as well. But it's good.
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about urges in this chapter, specifically urges to eat certain foods, but I feel like it could apply to many number of things. I think I also was thinking it applies to I struggle with impulsive shopping sometimes when I'm
Yeah.
feeling sad or bored or something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this could be like a lot of different areas where I need work. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so it's been a good chapter. Was there anything that stood out to you as you were reading?
Um, well, once I figured out what word I was reading, that helped me. And then I felt like I had to read a couple of different sections again. So I don't know if my brain was just distracted when you're trying to read, like you're like
Yeah.
not all the way present. So apparently
Yes.
I wasn't mindfully reading, or I was just didn't want to read. Maybe is my other thing. Like I feel like every chapter is like putting another mirror in front of my face. Like,
Yeah.
how are you doing this? And I know it's not always about right and wrong of like you did this or you didn't do this, but I have trouble not thinking that way most of the time. But
Yeah.
the urge surfing versus willpower, part of me was understanding it, some of it wasn't, but the just surf, or maybe I was talking about the waves, whatever, subsiding. Like the emotions can come and they're big and they crash, and then it recedes and it goes back out again. So I just remember in the counseling office, and then I was thinking maybe I need to go in that office more again. Anyways, just that she was reminding me the big emotions will come, but they don't stay forever. So
Yes.
part of my problem is I don't want to even have the wave. Like just want
Yeah.
to move on. And I think but I think from the last chapter, the emotional intelligence, when she was talking about if you feel the first feeling, then you don't have that domino effect of so many extra feelings because you didn't process the first feeling.
Yes.
So I kind of feel
Yes.
like that, like you're saying, it builds on itself um, with the urge to eat whatever. And then that goes back to, are you being mindful about why you're wanting to eat this? And, but I think if I'm understanding it right, like the willpower is kind of like not a thing. Like it's just like a practice, like urge surfing. It's like, it's going to come and it's going to go and it doesn't have anything to do with willpower. Is that what you understood?
Yeah, and I found that to be interesting. So she was talking about how like we have this notion of self-control or willpower as to like, well, I can only um we think, oh, I can only withstand the temptation of this thing for so long before it wears me down,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have to give in. Like it's almost like we no longer have control. Like we our self-control is almost like a fuel gauge on like a car that
Yeah.
eventually goes to empty. And so I think she was trying to challenge our perspective on that
Mm-hmm.
it's really not, that's not the case. Like we don't actually tire of making wise choices. Like,
Yeah.
because I guess that we kind of just have to shift our perspective on it almost. I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
did come back to that, like people who diet and like cut out foods and abstain from things that they want do eventually end up like binging because they're just saying no to that thing so much. But what she's talking about is being mindful that like, yes, I want this food,
Yeah.
and why do I want it? Why am I feeling the urge to eat it? And then to like sit with that instead of just avoiding the feeling and just saying, nope, I'm not going to do it, and like not paying attention. So I think that at least it feels like what the difference is.
Yeah.
And that so she talks about mastery in this chapter a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and how even if you when you establish mastery in other things. So she defines mastery. She says it means doing things that make you feel competent and confident. And she talked a lot about how even if you have mastery in other areas, like nothing to do with emotional eating necessarily, but
Yeah.
like, you go out and take a painting class, or you accomplish something in your yard or whatever it might be, doing something that makes you feel like, oh, I'm smart and I can do things, that will help your ability to have mastery in ending, in your eating habits as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just thought that was really
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like, it's like you can make progress in this area
Yeah.
without necessarily only making progress in this area. Like there's other ways to help you build that skill almost, or
Right.
that confidence. So
Yeah.
I thought that was just so interesting. And I know that I can't remember where I've read it before, but I read something, about like raising kids and how in our culture we have this idea that everyone needs to be good at everything, and that's so bad for our mental health. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we have kids that they need to play every sport and they need to do every activity, and but then they get to the point where they don't feel good at any of them. Like they don't feel
Yeah.
like they're competent at anything that they're doing. They're just doing so many things.
Right.
And then it makes us feel like failures. And
Mm.
so this makes so much sense to me, because I'm like, if we can find something that we can just, and she talks about like running a marathon, like
Yeah.
it's not like you just one day, oh, I can run a marathon now and I've done nothing to do that.
Yeah.
Like she was saying, there's actual like tangible plans where where there's one step that you take each day, and in so many days you can be ready to run a marathon. I don't remember,
Right.
or so many months.
Yeah.
But
I remember
so
that one app, Couch to whatever it was,
yeah,
Couch to Race or something, or Couch to Marathon. I don't remember, but I was like,
right.
oh yeah. Do I want to run a marathon? I just want to go for a walk. Like, and then
Yeah.
I actually Googled after that, because in Spokane they have a Bloomsday run that's like 7 miles, I guess.
Okay.
And you can walk or run it. But I was like, would that really be exciting to me? Or is that like, I don't, or just because it was the example in the book, like,
Right.
I don't really know. So,
Yes.
but I like that what you're saying of the like focus in on something and actually pay attention to that. And then you can be like, you're not trying to do 20 things. You're just trying to do one thing, like,
Yeah.
and do that well. Like,
And I think that goes along with like some of the books like The Lazy Genius Way, and also The Rhythms of Renewal. Like she
mhm.
talked about just getting out and doing something like that can
Yeah,
help with depression, and you know and then like Lazy Genius Way, deciding like what matters to you. So marathon running might not matter to you or to me, but we may decide like, hey, I want to go out and take a book writing class or something.
yeah,
And just the act of like learning something new and like accomplishing something builds your confidence, which that seems so like just, well, duh, of course it does.
yeah.
But I love that she's just making the connection that when we have any mastery, any element of it in our lives, that it can then impact every other area of our lives, which I
Right.
guess I never thought of it that way. I think I compartmentalized it, like
Yeah.
I might get
Well,
better at this one thing, but what does that have to do with anything else,
yeah. Well, and then I liked what you were saying. You don't have to get better at, I don't need to learn how to play tennis and swim and run a marathon and cook really crazy meals and write a book and do all, like, I just can start listing all the things and it's like, whoa, I can't even, because then that like shuts me down too. So,
Yeah.
ah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
well, I'm not, and then now we got to learn how to surf. Hold the phone, friends. Hold the phone. Or maybe I shouldn't hold the phone. Put the phone down.
Right? Put the phone
Put the
down.
phone down.
Yes.
Somebody in our week was talking about, they did a tech detox week. So their whole family was off screens, and she was noticing a dramatic difference in her daughter. And like, she just needed to detox that screen time. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, how much of that am I doing to myself? Like, that's
Right?
not really mastering something.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think this chapter excited me too because I feel like this podcast has been an element of
Yes.
mastery, if you will,
Yes.
that both of us have been like adventuring on, and
Yes.
it feels, I have felt that like personal pride or confidence that like, hey, we're actually like releasing episodes and
Yeah.
we're finishing books, and I'm writing in my notebooks that I've had for so long that I hold on to
Yeah.
because I don't want to
All
waste
over your
paper.
house. Yeah.
And now I'm actually using them up. Like,
Yeah.
that feels good.
Mhm.
So like all of those little things can add to this confidence. And so it's just cool. It's
Yeah,
cool.
but are they little? See, they're not little. You're growing,
Right?
right? Like that's
Yeah.
that growth mindset. I hear Stefan talking all the time, and she mentioned that in the chapter too. Like,
Yes. The fixed mindset versus the growth
yeah,
mindset.
it's like
Yeah.
okay. And then I feel like, are those buzzwords? But it's like, well, it's illustrating something. So what does that mean again, Corey?
Yes.
Let's think about how can I have that and not pinpoint myself into one spot.
Yes. I love, so she said, purposefully engaging in activities to build mastery is a key ingredient in cognitive behavioral therapy for depression, a treatment that has been found to be as effective as antidepressants. I don't know. I guess the more I learn about our brains and like how God has made us, the more excited I get, because I don't know. Sometimes I think I can think about just all the things that are happening in the world, and that makes me depressed because of just how like bonkers it is,
Yeah.
But like learning about things like this excites me because it reminds me that like humans are beautiful because God made us that way, and we're intricate, and like he has this amazing way that he made us that we can just like, I don't know, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing that we can like change our brains and I don't know, not just be stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the motivation part she was talking about. The motivation is not a prerequisite for action. And I was like, oh, how often does that fall into dishes that are
right.
I have no motivation to clean the kitchen. But then it's like I trick myself like the lazy like just put one thing over there. Like I've been doing that zoning thing with like Kendra's like, so I just get all the things where they're supposed to be, and then I can see all the dishes, and then it's like this Tetris puzzle I'm playing with myself.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, but then after it's done, it just feels so good that it's so maybe there wasn't motivation, but then action leads to action, and then cleaned. I didn't just do the dishes, I cleaned the counters and I wiped the sink, and all the things are
Yes. And then you can feel like, oh, you can actually like relax, or like instead of this pseudo relaxing where you're also still worried about all the things that have to be done,
right.
like because then you don't feel relaxed.
No, it's like, okay, what's going on here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was encouraged too by what she was talking about. So the urge surfing, or surfing urges, has to do with like our urges and our emotions are like waves that go up and go down, they recede and then they come back in.
Yeah.
And she was talking about this lady that was in New York or somewhere, a big city with like a food truck area, and how she would always feel so discouraged because whenever she was walking, she would feel like she lost self-control and would just binge on all the good food at the food trucks, which sounds really yummy right now.
Yeah.
But there was a passage in there. She said the combination of reminding herself that urges pass and expanding her awareness by paying attention to her feet on the ground, her breath, the architecture of buildings, and the people around her cured her myopic focus on the food truck parade. And I don't know. I found that story to be very like inspirational, that, we don't have to avoid our feelings. We don't have to avoid the fact that we are drawn to food when we like are emotional, but we can pay attention to that and then move our attention somewhere else. And that, like,
Yeah.
I guess, so it feels like the difference is that we're mindful, mindful of like, oh, this is happening. This is a thought I'm having. But then we can gently direct our attention to be mindful of other things, and remember that food is not the end all and be all of who we are or of our lives, even though it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, because it's like all the time.
Right? Yes.
This summer's been full of barbecues and different ways. So it's like, okay, well, how can I make this about the people I'm connecting with and not the food? Yes. And then I was able to, one of the times I just portioned off less food so I could taste more things. But then I felt like, then the barbecue was a little bit more intense apparently, or I didn't know how to process all the emotions from that. So then I came home and was eating like a different set of something in my own kitchen. So I was like, so did I not, or I don't know. So that being satisfied and satiated and how those are all different. And then how it's like, but I guess if we have a growth mindset right now, then I'm reminding myself I'm learning to pay attention to that, where before I wouldn't even have thought about it necessarily. Not that I wouldn't have thought that I didn't eat food. I'm not totally naive to what I'm doing, but just that I get noticing more, I guess, paying attention, like, why am I doing this right now? What is my stomach telling me? This is a cue, not from my stomach. This is from emotions. Like, so that's been an interesting thing. Like, I don't know. So
yes. Well, and I think what she talked about in the chapter is moving away from this idea of how we label our urges or our emotions as good or bad.
Yeah.
And how she was saying, like, instead of saying it's bad that I want to eat this chocolate because I'm sad or because I'm, because there was conflict. That was my deal today, it's bad that I want to do that. You just can name, wow, I really want to eat chocolate right now because I just had a moment of conflict with my kid. And that's like, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
And then she talks about asking yourself, would satisfying that urge be effective and helpful to what I value?
Mm-hmm.
And like to be able to have that conversation with yourself, because labeling them as good or bad doesn't help. It's like that it just either makes you feel guilty. Most of the time it just makes you feel shameful and guilty.
Right.
Whereas if you can move to a space of saying, would doing this be helpful to my goals? Then you can have a more like productive conversation with yourself, you know? So
then is that like sitting on the surfboard waiting for the right wave? Like, or are we right? I don't know. I don't know enough about surfing, but I know that the surfers are out there waiting for the right wave to like climb up on their board. So I just think it's interesting. I guess so maybe that's the conversation point then with yourself of, oh, not yet. Oh, why do I want to do that one?
Right.
I don't know. So that's an interesting thing. And it makes me happy that we're talking about this, even though I didn't want to.
Well, and one thing I love too is, so my counselor and I have been working a lot on like sitting with a feeling, because I usually like to rush past them and think, how can I fix it? Or like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And just sitting with it and like, where am I feeling it?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it like to be feeling it right now? And so this morning, Spencer and I were having a moment of disagreement about something. And it wasn't like big, but it was just, there was conflict there. And immediately after, I was like, I walked by the pantry and my brain was like, hey, grab a chocolate, because that's where my chocolates are. And and it's so easy,
Yeah. You got some muscle memory for that.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, what am I doing? Like, so I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to like work on what I'm reading about. So I I stopped and like I wrote down what time it was, and I wrote down like this is what I'm feeling and where I'm feeling it. So it was like in my stomach, but it was also in my arms, which I felt really weird. Like
Oh,
I'm feeling this feel like it feels like it would be right for my arms to grab the chocolate right now. Like almost like a restlessness. So anyway, I wrote all of that down and then I was like, do I need to eat the chocolate?
yeah.
Like, and I had the conversation, like, would that be helpful? And I was like, no, not really. So I'm going to go do something that I need to get done, like, and just not distract myself, but realize that I don't need to do that thing. And
Yeah.
then it went away. And I think that felt like, wow, this actually works. Like,
Yeah.
and I know it won't always be like that. There will be a time, like she says, you know, there will be a time that you do give into the urge, but at least you've thought about, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What impact will it have on me? And you're moving to the spot where you're putting more space in between the urge and you actually doing it. And that
Yeah.
is progress too, you know?
Well, and
So,
then she was like, okay, if you decide to eat the piece of chocolate, then can you mindfully enjoy it and be in that
yes.
minute? Like to go, oh, this tastes nice and smooth, or whatever kind of chocolate it is, or it has caramel, or what? Maybe it has
Yes.
salt on it. I don't know. That
All
would
of
be
the
my
above.
favorite, salted caramel. Anyways, but just like instead of just like and then you chewed it and it's gone, and then you like,
Right?
did I even eat that? Like I was so excited to eat it and I didn't even.
And then it's over and it's like,
Yeah, so you didn't
oh,
pay attention. So I think it's like a clue, whatever you end up deciding.
yeah.
But it's right. Like it's like, okay, it's 5 seconds of chewing this whatever. What was the beginning of the chapter? A scone or something like at the
Yes.
coffee place, and
Or
it's like
cranberry muffin.
I
Yeah.
just don't even go in the coffee place. Like I'm just like I can't handle that, so I'm just like don't do it. Like
Right.
or whatever. Anyways,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
And then I was just reminded this week the Galatians 5, the fruits of the spirit, and self-control is one of those that Jesus gives us. And so I
yes.
was feeling, well, all the feelings, discouraged and lost and
Yeah.
like I haven't figured this out yet. But then it was like, okay, but Jesus is giving us tools and the fruit that is good for us. So it felt more like it's not something I can't obtain. So I guess
Yeah.
that's part of the growth mindset then.
Yes. That's
And
good.
say, Jesus, help me is what has been my other prayers. I can't get much farther than that sometimes. It's like, just
Right?
please help me. Like, please help me.
Yes. And those are heard. He hears you.
Yes. And what was your verse that you were thinking of again?
Yeah, so it's James 1:23 through 25. It says, anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. And it just made me think, you know, like you said, with self-control being a fruit of the spirit, you know, like God is revealing these things to us, these next steps that we can take to be more of who he created us to be.
Yeah.
And so we get to see those things and then we get to choose that we're going to walk in that. And it's just one step at a time. It makes me think of when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's not like you paste a whole new mask on yourself. Like you might pluck a couple eyebrow hairs or like put a little blush on, something.
Yeah.
It's like one thing at a time. It's not like so it's one step at a time. And so that just reminded me that, that I get to make just that one little choice at a time and that I will be blessed in what I do because I'm, doing what God is asking me to do. So,
yeah.
But I'm excited to continue reading this book. I think it's a good learning experience and a great way to change my brain. So,
yes. Amen for changing your brain.
Yes. And next episode, we will be talking about the Lazy Genius Kitchen again. More of part 2 and learning from Kendra Adachi and making our kitchens more peaceful, less stressful.
Yeah.
And clarifying what matters. So it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks for listening, friends.
Thank you so much. And what did I just do? Sorry. Thank you, friends.
All right.
That's behind the scenes. Corey's pushing buttons. Have fun surfing.
Bye.